from the industry through the community right into your home. It's the Green Room, and we're on. What's going on, everybody? It's Lester from Cannabis Wiki. I'm here with the North American cannabis flower. That's right, the girl with those bee stings to make you sing. What's going on, Jackie Cow?
Hey guys, welcome to the Green Room. Hey Lester, everybody.
The Green Room. What's going on, girlfriend? How are you today?
Not much. Just staying home, washing my hands.
Well, that is a good thing. You know, here in Canada, things are doing quite well with COVID-19. If I have forgotten, we always like to thank everybody for doing their part, washing your hands. You know how it is. Respect for others is always good. So, talk to me, girl. What's popping?
Shouldn't we throw that in there? Like, I wish, like, the Surgeon General or the government or whatever, they're like, okay, wash your hands, socially distance, don't be a dick. Like, if we that, that could help with COVID, right? Like, you know what? You got to stop being a bitch, and it's going to stop spreading. Wouldn't that be funny? Like, they have all these conspiracy theorists and all these whatever. Like, you know what? If you're just not a bitch, we're going to be able to get through this.
Right? No joke. Yeah. Well, we're doing good here in Canada, and we're definitely sending our prayers to everybody in the United States. Seem to be having a little hard time, and the rest of the world. You know, everybody's in our thoughts for sure. Today on our show, we have a special guest, Green Room. We have Riley Starr, the founder of Flir Cannabis. Riley, what's going on, sir?
Not too much going on. How are you guys doing?
Good. Welcome to the Green Room.
It's amazing to be here. Jack, you just said something incredibly inspirational to me because, you know, I think a lot of us are talking about right now. It's like, you know, what are the things that have changed with COVID that maybe will stick around after it's all over? And what if the Surgeon General just like permanently issued a statement that's like, just don't be a dick. Maybe that just sticks around after this is all over.
Just don't be a dick. Wouldn't that be great?
That's good advice always. That's what I say.
I think it would work.
So, Can you tell us a bit about Gallery Brands and Flir Cannabis? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So we've got some exciting things going on. So I'm working with Gallery, you know, and Gallery is basically just a few of us who got together. It's myself, it's Angelina. She's the brains and the brawn, I have to say, behind Blessed Edibles. We've got Dome out in Kelowna. You know, he's representing Little Pharma. And I guess what kind of brought us all together is we all had some sort of experience, you know, like this time when, you know, first the wheels started moving in the States, you know, these states started kind of opening up, like the whole kind of like cannabis situation. And then it started to come to Canada. And I think each of us kind of got into this. I mean, some of them longer than others. I mean, you know, Dome and his crew, they've been along for a long time. Angelina too. But, you know, we're all kind of inspired and just hoping this is like an opportunity to like see the culture evolve, see the culture kind of get into the mainstream. And, you know, here we are, it's a few years later. I don't think everything's worked out exactly the way we hoped. You know, like we still have a lot of work to do on things like amnesty. You know, I think the regulations have created a situation where it's hard to kind of get into the game, which is a shame. But all three of us in our own way at different points, you know, we're just like, you know, what the hell, we're going to throw our lot in. We feel inspired to kind of like try and contribute something to the culture, try and, you know, bring the products to like a new place, you know, that's kind of something that's on our minds. So, you know, we each had our own experiences, and we're also all in different parts of the country. Like I'm here in Montreal, you know, Angie's over in Toronto, you know, Dome's out in BC. But it kind of met through our networks, and we're like, you know, we all are just trying to find a way to get into this market. What's the best way to get past those barriers? And it was like, well, let's get together, let's form this company, and let's go out there and see who's around and find some partners, and get this stuff made and kind of keep that inspiration alive and try and bring those ideas to fruition. So that's basically where Gallery came from. Okay. And so Flir, you know, is my focus. That's kind of the brand that I'm working on. And yeah, it's the continuation of work that we've done for a lot of years now. And it's really exciting. It's like, you know, we're a few months away from getting some products out there, but I think we're going to do something extraordinary.
So what challenges have you come with COVID? With COVID happening, exactly. COVID situation, what challenges have you guys faced?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Like, I think a lot of people have had it a lot worse, you know, because when all this stuff kind of hit, you know, we were still at the point of kind of brainstorming, you know, figuring out a plan, kind of our strategy. You know, things are going to be difficult, I think, for a long time still ahead. But it was a lot of like laying down plans. It was having conversations with people who were kind of going to be our partners in this whole endeavor. So, and the thing is, like, we're all across the country. We're already doing doing these Zoom calls a lot and coordinating, and each kind of working in our own area. So we're already kind of on that tip, Now we're getting closer and closer to actually launching, and it's finding creative ways to kind of get out there and connect with people. But at the same time, something I've thought a lot about is coming from, kind of the legacy market where, for a long time you had amazing opportunities. There are these pop-ups going on in Toronto and Vancouver, really all across the country. And you had all these amazing ways to kind of connect with people directly, people who were like responding to what we were doing. And, we all definitely shared the same hope. Like, we hope that this is part of like the new kind of legal system. And that's not really where we are. There's like this big disconnect between the people who want to make these products, who want to kind of like put their own spin on cannabis, and the people who are actually going to end up touching it and using it and consuming it, which is too bad. But we're already kind of focused on that, of like, how do we have that connection? How do we like keep that connection with people alive, even if there's not necessarily going to be a lot of face-to-face? And now literally there's not a lot of face-to-face going on, but I think it's good. We're already kind of having that reflection and figuring out creative ways, like how do we keep that link going with the people who are going to enjoy these things, So it's good. So it's focused, that thinking, but we're already going in that direction. So I think we've got some good ideas,
So what would you say, Riley, would be one of the biggest hurdles that you've faced that has given you the most inspiration to keep going?
I mean, biggest hurdles, it's been a series of things. And I think really it was, to give a bit about my background, I think, which explains a little bit of what I wanted to do is, before I jumped over to cannabis, it's been for me a lifelong relationship. Well, at least my whole adult life since my teens, it's been something close to my heart. But where I kind of wound up is I was working as a brewer. So I spent years and years working in brew pubs. And that was really satisfying, and there's this culture around craft brewing where, especially in my case, you're working in the brew pub, like you're down in the basement, filling the tanks, brewing new styles, coming up with stuff. And then, you wrap up your day. It's kind of like a 9 to 5, but you wrap up your day, you go upstairs and the restaurant's opening, the brewery's opening up. And you get to spend time and hang out with people who are going to try these things that you've created. And there's this beautiful back and forth. And a lot of those people, a lot of the fans are people who brew at home as a hobby. So there's just this real nice kind of loop that goes on, where it's like it keeps the culture vibrant because, the creators and the consumers, first of all, like, are kind of both being creators and consumers. And there's just like lots of places to interact and lots of places to kind of like share these ideas. And that was something I was really hoping that we would create a space for with cannabis. And, unfortunately, we're a long way from there, of having, establishments, places you can go and kind of experience cannabis in like a social context. And so that was, when we saw that wasn't really going to be part of the official plan, that was probably the biggest disappointment, because that was something that I really wanted to see. It's like I wanted to bring that sort of model of like brewing and just like this closeness and kind of, this shared space of creators and people kind of enjoying those creations. Like, I was really hoping that would exist for cannabis, and it doesn't yet. Like, I'm hoping it will still, but what kind of got me past that is, again, this thinking of like, well, if there's going to be this barrier between me and the things that I make and the people in the end who are going to be able to enjoy them, I have to find other ways to connect, And I think one way you do that is just through your creativity. I think if you're like in my case, we want to make edibles, we're talking about beverages, and chocolate is kind of my experience. I think if you're feeling inspired and it's like there's some combination of flavors, some combination of cannabinoid strains, that like says something to you personally, that like is really meaningful to you personally, even if you aren't able to talk to the person down the road who enjoys that, they're going to recognize the inspiration. It's like they're going to recognize there's something personal here. This is somebody trying to share something with me that's meaningful to them. And that's an amazing thing that really breaks through those barriers, and that was kind of the ethos that kind of kept things going. That really kind of gave me some optimism.
You're a people person. Go ahead.
Lester, I'm interrupting because what I was talking about earlier, and I've mentioned a bunch of times, see the difference between the giant corporate and the craft legacy coming in with authenticity and love. And he wants, he's sharing authenticity, something he loves, like he wants to have something in the market. He's thinking about the end consumer and their enjoyment. I didn't hear a whole bunch of corporate mumbo jumbo here, which I think
no. I'm still learning the mumbo jumbo. I'm not fluent yet.
Which I think is good. I think there's a real shift, and I'm hopeful that your hopes and dreams of what you had planned or hoped to see in the cannabis industry can still happen. I think the entire COVID has also given us this massive shift of, more seed to sale and earth to table and all that sort of. We're welcoming the smaller guys. We're welcoming the community and the culture, which was, like you initially said, the barrier to entry, whether it's legalities or financial. That's so hard. It has been created so tough to get into this industry. And when you're in the industry, it's business. Normally. Now I think we're getting into the industry and we're creating the community and culture that has been created long ago is now being celebrated, now being, something we're championing in the industry. So I think something such as gallery brands, now is a good time for this bridge, because I think the craft and I think the legacy and I think the smaller guys are starting to flourish and are starting to get into the space.
That's when it's. Yeah, go ahead, Les. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's funny if you read the financial news, everybody's like, 2019, the first part of 2020, it's been a real rough go for the cannabis industry in Canada. You know what I mean? Like they're like, companies are going out of business, they're kind of shrinking their operations, but that's that one perspective. It's the money perspective. At the same time, though, it's interesting because now we're out looking and we're like, well, we want to get these chocolate bars made. We want to do it with somebody who cares, who has expertise and passion about that, and we can connect on that level. And what you're starting to find, at least what I've found, is that, there's a lot of companies who are really pushing to be biggest, most global. We're going to be the most vertically integrated. We're going to make every type of product. And now after a couple of years, you're seeing they're the ones who are kind of having to scale back and kind of having a difficult time. But the people who are still around, and actually the people you see thriving right now, are the ones who decided to build kind of for the long term. We're like, look, we're going to focus on this because this is what's important to us, and we're going to be the best at it. And those people are doing great, and those are the people who are still around and want to work with us. And that's inspiring to see. I think you hear the doom and gloom, but it's again, the industry transforming, and I think having to acknowledge that you can't build this whole business just on, trying to improve your stock price. You have to believe in it. And I think that's where the authenticity gap is. I think a lot of people are asking this question, how do you build authentic brands? And the answer is the same as it is for any other business or industry. It's well, you have to be building something that you believe in and that means something to you. And that's what creates something authentic. When you have a passion and other people recognize that passion and want to connect with you, that's really the only way to do it. And I think we're starting to see space open up for those people to finally have an opportunity, and that's encouraging. That makes me really happy.
I agree. I think it's encouraging too. It seems like if the industry started this cannabis world that we're traveling on and has opened up a big wound, it seems like they're bringing in the legacy to come and heal that and straightening things out.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, I'm Dr. Flir, I'm going to cure all the ills. Like we were saying, there's still a lot of problems here. It's there's a lot of the injustice that we inherited from prior to legalization that there's not still a lot of serious effort to address that. And we need to find a way there. But I think the best way to do it is, creating opportunities for people who were players before and really still care to find a way in, and it's still not easy, but, I feel lucky because I've seen other people starting to blaze that trail. It's this wasn't, I don't want to claim to be a pioneer. And, it's interesting, you may keep making these comparisons when we talk about, cannabis regulation and just what it's like going through COVID, and in both cases, you're okay, there's all these kind of restrictions and limitations on existence and what we can do and what we can try. But at the same time, that kind of pressure, those kind of creative constraints it gets people thinking, gets people kind of really drawing on their creativity and finding the cracks and finding the ways to get there. And often you find it's kind of that same old wisdom, it's like stand behind what you're doing, make it personal, like make it authentic, make sure it's something that is important to you, and people will find you that way.
When I'm high, I'll find those cracks.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
That's true. It gives you that eye,
Starr,
they stand out.
Finding your way in here. So how do we say your brand? Flir? Flir?
Yeah,
Flower?
Flir, F-L-I-R.
Flir. So what makes you different? What are you doing that's different that the big guys maybe are not doing or need some help with?
Passion.
Well, I mean, I think that's the root of it. What I see a lot is you see a lot of stuff rolling out onto the market now, and I think, again, I think a lot of the current players, they're feeling this pressure where it's like all this money was put into these companies, and they're like, it's time to start seeing a return. And I feel like most of what's coming onto the market is like, people are thinking like, what can we make that's going to like appeal to everyone, And when you take that approach of like, what's going to appeal to everyone, then it's going to be something kind of generic, and it's not going to be like specifically appealing to like any one person or any kind of like group or kind of like one of the kind of cultures that exists within cannabis more broadly, And I think that was what inspired us about forming Gallery, is coming together, and all of us have our own focus, Angelina's like an incredible athlete and fighter, and cannabis came into her life and helped her in that journey, and her whole brand is focused around that experience. And, Dome comes from that tradition where it's like, it's BC Bud, it's like these expert cultivators, people who know how to treat the plant, but also kind of developed all this scientific knowledge and rigor of like, how do we apply, kind of botanical sciences to draw out like the best representation of the plant, in the form of extracts and all these things, So in that sense, I think we each have a very clear idea of like what we want to do and the kind of people that we want to speak to. And each kind of doing that in our own way, but under Gallery, it's sort of this house where people can come in, and it's like each one of us is really focused on our own work, but anybody coming in there is going to find something that speaks to them. That's sort of like the art gallery. It's like you've got rooms of different artists or different themes, and somewhere in there, like something's going to strike you, something's going to speak to you, and that's what we're hoping, is that we can each stay super focused on the essence of our brand. But, together as a team, together as collaborators, we'll be able to really reach every type of, cannabis lover out there. That's the idea.
How did you guys meet? How did this come together?
So I met Angie in Toronto. There are kind of these events where people would come and kind of, again, share like what they were building, what they were working on. So we got to meet there. That was really cool. The first time, especially me coming from Montreal, there's a whole established scene in Toronto, and Montreal, I feel, is like a funny place where we have a bit of that scene, but I feel like it's more like kind of everybody smokes weed and everybody kind of knows something who grows, but where it's like there's not as much like events and kind of like all this kind of cultural stuff going on. It's just like, oh, everybody gets high here, and so it's interesting walking into those spaces and seeing like, oh wow, everybody's like really bringing something to the table here and has like these amazing ideas, and like this is what they want to do with edibles, this is what they want to do with like cosmetics and topicals, and it was super intimidating the first time, but then you realize how welcoming that community is, and how everybody was just like so excited to find like friends and allies of like, yeah, we want to see legalization come, but like we hope we can influence the form it takes, so that creates space for all these ideas. So that's where I got the chance to meet Angie. Dome I met a little more recently. We were out in Kelowna around this time last year, back when you could still just like hop on a plane and go to BC. It's like really missing those days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And got to see what they were working on out there, and was just blown away. It's like people who have a real love for the flower, who like understand the climate, understand the soil, like understand everything about it, and are just producing something incredible, So that was it, it was, we just felt like we were kind of all coming to it with the same idea, and was like, well, I think this is the way we got to go,
Do you have any big secrets or things you're not supposed to tell that you're going to tell us?
Oh, I mean, I have lots of secrets.
Yeah, he's always wanting a cannon. Give us a cannon.
A what?
Yeah. We want something that nobody else has shared yet, because the Little Pharma has a secret they couldn't tell. Angelina's like, well, in
Oh.
a few weeks I have something I can share. What do you got?
Oh, see, they
Right.
didn't tell me that was part of their thing. They're like, we're going to let him go in and do his best on the spot. Oh, so you want the exclusive?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
got any?
we might be talking about something similar. I mean, we're gonna have some big announcements coming in the next few weeks. Got to keep my lips sealed about some of them, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like one thing that I'm excited for is that for a long time, here in Quebec, it's weird, right? Because like cannabis is everywhere; it's a part of the culture, but we just happen to have this provincial government right now that's just like very socially conservative. They're not into the idea, and they've just been fighting every step of like this whole project
A
of kind of legalize. So
disaster. You're
imagine,
being polite. They're terrible. It's a complete
yeah,
disaster.
they're terrible.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah,
You can't have cannabis leaves on things. The advertising rules and regulations are ridiculous. The size of the signs and the
yeah.
any of your products, the way they're marketed, it's insane. It's like they're just crushing you before you even get started.
Yeah, well, Jackie, you scooped me on the secret. The secret is that the cannabis industry sucks in Quebec, at least on the legal side. So you already have all the privileged information, apparently. But even then, he's starting to ease up a little bit. I mean, the problem in Quebec too is that they kind of just like they're like we're going to do all state-run retail, and we kind of don't want to put too much work into this. Like we don't want to really like advance the culture at all. So we kind of have this monopoly situation where there's only 2 or 3 licensed producers that they're willing to work with. So that's something that I hope is going to change and that I want to see change soon. Like I don't know who has that secret, but I'm keeping my eyes out because like you've got love for the place where you grew up, and it's like everything that's a part of my brand, which I think when it comes down to it, it's like it's really just about the enjoyment. It's about slowing down a little bit, having things that are in your life that are already beautiful and meaningful to you, and finding like those extra little kind of dimensions to those things that cannabis can kind of like open your eyes to. And I think that's very much part of the Montreal vibe. It's our road construction sucks, but our rent is cheap, and everyone's working on some creative project. And there's amazing food, and that was kind of what came to me as far as like what I want to represent with Flir. It's that the way that you are going to interact with cannabis, the way you want to consume it, in some way is going to like imprint on your experience and like what you experience like when you're high. It's like when I think back to the days before legalization, before we had like every type of product and extract and edible imaginable, it was like you'd roll a J and like you'd share it around with your friends, and it was that like social sharing, like kind of bonding aspect that was like that fed the experience. And for me, I think it's really put forward this idea that it's like I love doing creative things with chocolate, with the flavors. Like chocolate is this cool medium for flavors that you can't really capture in other types of foods. Like it's really unique and kind of fascinating that way. And drinks too, like beverages are really cool. Like there's ways to incorporate these flavors and also kind of bring to light these things that again are meaningful to me. Like this is super nerdy, but I got really into tea like last fall. There's a really great like private importer in Montreal, and like I'm going to try all these teas. They come from different places, they're fermented different ways, they're handled different ways, and I just got really into it. And that's
That's
kind of the
not
direction we're
nerdy.
going with our group. Was
How
that?
is that nerdy? That's not nerdy.
Oh, it's definitely nerdy. I'm not saying nerdy is a bad thing.
Yeah, nerdy's not a bad thing. Nerdy's a good thing.
Yeah. But so that's the idea. Like with Flir, it's like I'm like, well, I want to bring kind of this inspiration and like these things that like get me excited and that are kind of discoveries for me, and share that discovery with somebody else. And I think, when you feel like you're experiencing somebody else's inspiration and just like feeling of discovery in the product, that's good. That's I think positive for the experience. It puts you in that state of mind of like, oh, let's appreciate these things and like, what am I going to find here? Being high and like having the experience of cannabis that like sometimes just passes under your notice. That you kind of just like fly past, and that's really kind of the idea that's sort of pushing all this stuff that I want to do.
I can see why I could totally see why all of you guys are working together. We've spent a little time with each of the team, Angela, Dom, Paul, yourself now, and it totally makes sense how you guys jive together. It seems to be a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good team, and just like again, knowing that we're coming from similar places and we want to get to a similar place, it's just again, it feels like there's so much kind of like tooth and nail competition in the industry, and to be on this team where everyone is super mutually supportive. Like we see what everyone else is trying to do, and it speaks to us, and like we want to all kind of bring each other ahead. Like that's super inspiring. I didn't think that I was going to be able to find that in this business. I thought that if I'm going to try and transition out of like the legacy market, get onto the legal side, it's going to be about compromising, just like the joy of working with other people, because it's going to be this corporate, dry, competitive thing. And I don't know, I just find that I'm so fortunate that I found these people and that we're kind of doing this together.
When you get settled into the industry, like once you're in the market and you've crossed all these hurdles and these bridges and you're actually here, you are, will you have a charity component, possibly like Cannabis Amnesty or something? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean that's on everyone's mind. And like we were talking about, I think we all had a big vision of like where we wanted legalization to go. And the justice component was a huge one, because it's been this engine of incarceration as much in Canada as everywhere else. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as kind of like the gentler police state, but it's like we're the sneakier one, And again, I think, and we want to be a part of this, but I think you're going to see more and more voices that are being insistent on that start to become dominant voices in the industry. I mean, we're trying to get there where we can be a part of this and be a player, and again start to infuse what's happening now with those same kind of priorities. And it's a tough decision to make. When you see a system that's evolving and is going to a place that doesn't really resolve those issues of justice, you can't help but ask. It's like, well, do I want to sit that out? Do I want to not have anything to do with it, or do I want to jump in and maybe by participating can kind of direct where things go and can take it in a more positive direction? And I think that's a super hard question. I decided to kind of take the leap, but yeah, I mean, for sure, it's like there's so many big changes that we still need to see, and we're going to be pushing hard for those.
Well said.
Yay.
Well said.
Yeah, I'll buy some Flir chocolate. I think the consumers are, they're going to want to put their money behind stuff like, industry. They're going to want to put their money behind people that are doing it authentically. We don't always have to be number one. We don't have to be the biggest. We don't have to be the best, but not saying you won't be the best. But I think being smaller and being more relatable and really being concerned about the community and the culture, I think that's where consumers eventually, once we get out of lockdown, once COVID's over, we'll be able to support. And, I think we lose something too, and I don't want to take away from the fact that this is your business, and you come into the space as a business and in hopes to earn money and not lose money. So it would be fabulous to see people support companies and brands such as yourself that are coming to the space.
Yeah. Survival always comes first,
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, what we're seeing, just to elaborate further on what Jackie's saying, what we're definitely seeing in the change of business, definitely in the second year, 2020, a lot more grounded people, a lot more people that have a passion for the direction that they're going with the business. There's no problem with making money in this industry. Money has to be made in order for people to continue on. But to find passion behind what people are doing is definitely what's coming across our table. Which is what it makes these interviews easy to be able to sit down with you, Riley Starr, who I've never met before, but I can feel the passion that you have just for people to bring a social gathering. And if we already know cannabis is the number one social gathering, but what you're doing to put it out front inside of the legal conformities, the way you're navigating, my friend, it's excellent. Excellent.
Well, it's like, nothing keeps you passionate when you realize you're like, I never expected to get this far, but it's the support and it's people who resonate with what you're doing. And then you realize also the privilege that comes with like getting this far and being in the industry. You're like, okay, well, I've got this position now, and it's like, you have to do something worthwhile with it. And, and there's so much work to be done. It's like, there's obviously like the justice around incarceration, but again, I think a lot of people who dove right in are like, look, we'll comply, we'll do whatever we need to do. We just want to be there first. There's issues with like the insane amount of packaging that like has to go into cannabis products. And we kind of took our time finding our way. And now the outlook for me is more positive because more companies are now developing packaging that meets the rules, but doesn't have such a terrible impact. And also, we're working with chocolate too. And it's one of these things where, there's a lot of global economic injustice around the chocolate industry. And, this wasn't the case 6 months or a year ago, but now we're seeing people coming in, getting licensed to do production for like, cannabis infused chocolate who do understand those issues and are finding ways to kind of improve those things, So sometimes that patience is good because there are more tools available, things start to come up that allow you to kind of have a positive impact. And that's changing constantly in this business, and I think it's going in the right direction.
There you go. Something's going in the right direction.
Boom.
Boom. Doesn't happen often.
Well, so it's hard to think so these days, but you find out where you can make things change, That's the best you can do.
Truly. Go ahead, Jackpot.
Where can our viewers, our listeners find you? On social media, LinkedIn, website? Where can we connect?
So we're definitely up on Instagram at madeby_Flir. You can check us out. We've got a lot of stuff we just launched, a couple weeks ago now. So we're still like winding up all that kind of thing. But that's exciting, because, it used to be kind of a one-person operation, managing the social media and trying to just kind of get out there. And now there's a team of people and some really amazing creative people. And I think the stuff that's going to be coming out on social is going to be super cool. And again, is just focused on the kind of philosophy of the brand, which is like slowing down, enjoying, recognizing beauty, and appreciating the connection that can exist between people when you're inspired to create something cool and creative, and when you're able to kind of like reach other people that way. So yeah, check us out there. We'll have lots of fun stuff coming up real soon.
I'm excited for you guys.
I am too, man. The whole team is pretty dope. I'm glad we got to meet all of you. It's been fantastic. Fantastic. You guys are going to do very well, I believe.
Well, thank you for joining us, Riley.
Crew, but it's amazing that you guys made some space for us. Like it's a ton of appreciation for that, and it's amazing to come here and kind of talk about these things and just keep the conversation going.
Exactly. Well, Riley Starr, founder of Flir Cannabis, we thank you so much for taking part with the Green Room. Jackpot.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. I look forward to sharing this with everyone. And stay safe, and I look forward to having some chocolate with you sometime. I like your hat.
Oh yeah, that day's coming sooner or later.
I was gonna ask about the hat, eh? What is that everyday astronaut?
This is my favorite hat. So I mean, it's merch for this guy who's like on YouTube, and he covers like aerospace stuff because I'm kind of an aerospace nerd, and he's just positive dude and is doing cool like kind of like freelance work. But also I just love this as like a mantra. I think it's a perspective thing. It's like there's no such thing as having a wider perspective than being up in space and looking down on everything. And it's just like keeping that in mind every day. Keep the big picture up there. Exactly.
Excellent. Riley, again, it was great meeting you. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us here on the Green Room. You take it easy, my friend.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Take it easy.
Take care. Right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Lester. Wasn't that sweet? Yeah. That was great.
Hey, listen, the fact that we've just well-rounded through the team and to see that they're all the same. They all have passion coming from 3 different spots throughout the country of Canada, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto. So it's been great to talk to all 3 of them and to see that they're all 3 full of passion. It's dope. So
Riley hit all of the hot buttons and hot topics starting with like charitable things, what the cannabis amnesty, barriers to entry, the packaging, authenticity, a love for your product and brand, coming from the craft beer, just creating community and celebrating culture. Like, really? I'm excited for them. when you
Yeah.
make a list, like your mandate, you're we want to cross all these T's and dot these I's. He did them all. Like I'm excited for him. I liked everything about him and that interview except for I don't like bicycles, and there was a bike behind him. It kept throwing me off.
Maybe it was just a throwback. It was art.
Yeah, maybe it's just art. Listen, Riley, I'll eat some chocolate and smoke a joint with you, but I am not going for a bike ride.
Yo, guys, cannabis talk is always fresh and a little bit sticky. Keep it locked. Cannabis Wiki, the green room. Jackpot.
Lester? Hey, it's our 1 year anniversary today, by the way. This show is commemorating our 1 year anniversary.
That it is. It's been a full year. Wow.
Poor Lester. What a nightmare.
Never mind. It's been good times. Nothing but good times. I like sitting it up here on this table. It's a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
First of 20. This is the first of 20. Right? Cannabis industry is not going anywhere. We are here for a long time. Right now, we're trying to nurture it. Not really pick through it to see who's the best, but we're actually allowing people to come through and show their best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of amazing people in the space, and they don't all have PR. They don't all have massive numbers. They don't have, like I've met some pretty cool growers that don't have any social media. They don't have. There's a lot of people in this industry to celebrate, and we're finding them.
Yeah, they're definitely coming across this table. It's dope. It's crazy.
Yeah. Anyhow, be grateful. Bye.